we'll actually be sending this out to everybody who wasn't able to attend the webinar as well. So first of all, I'd like to thank Cal CPA, who has done a phenomenal job in helping put together this experience. A little bit of background. So this is California Meet the Firms Week. This is our very first time we're doing this. You can see the sign-up website there, calcpa.meetthefirmsweek.com. If you haven't done so, you can go there. And in registering for the event, you'll build a profile on College Frog. And your profile and your resume will be distributed to all of the employers in the state of California, if that's where you are, in the state of California early next week. So that's a pretty good deal, right? You get your resume sent around to all the employers in your state. Hopefully, a great opportunity to be found and recognized by employers. Today, we're talking about the CPA exam. It's a hot topic. Why should you take it now? What are the test prep tips? This is a really great opportunity to learn from some experts at the leading brands in the test prep industry. So we are extremely excited to have these panelists on board today. So you have a control panel when you sign in to GoToWebinar. Let's take a quick second and make sure that works. You're going to use that to ask us questions because we're going to take Q&A at the end of the presentation. I'd love to see if that works. And do me a favor, just enter in the college that you represent right now, and I'll be able to tell everybody where everybody's from. There we go. So University of Washington, University of Houston Clear Lake, San Diego State, Wayne State, Berkeley, Southern Methodist University, go Mustangs, that's my alma mater, University of California, Santa Barbara, University of Puerto Rico, University of the Pacific, San Jose State, San Francisco State, Santa Clara, Mount St. Mary's College, CSU Long Beach. Now they're popping in. Thank you guys for doing that. That works great. Stanford, thank you for calling in, everybody. University of Southern Mississippi. So, Cal Poly Pomona, probably 60–70% of the audience is in the state of California as a part of this event, but we did invite some friends outside of the state as well. We're glad you're here. So that's going to work. We're going to do Q&A the last few minutes of the call, and I know you all have questions. Use that box, ask questions, and I'll ask our presenters as we move along. So let's get started. I will serve as the panelist today. And this is Jeff Phillips with College Frog. We'll go around the horn here and introduce our phenomenal panel. So what I'd like to do is just I'll pass it off to each one of you. Tell us who you are, a little bit about yourself, a little about your company, and we'll just go around the horn. And Phil Yeager, we're going to start with you. Go ahead, Phil.
Well, Jeff, thank you very much for inviting me today, and it's nice to be with this panel. I started the Yeager CPA Review course 36 years ago when it was a paper and pencil exam, and we were basically and always been a teaching course. And when the exam went to computer-based exam, what we did was we decided to take our live course, which was a teaching course, and put it on video. And we used the latest technology in teaching our course. And what I tell people to do is, when they are looking at courses, shop around. Look at the different courses, and every course, is different. And every course will be, maybe one will be better for you, one will be better for someone else. But I do recommend you do shop around and look at the different courses. And with that, I will pass it on to the next panelist.
Thanks, Phil. This is Mitra Wilson with Roger CPA Review. I'm very excited to be on this panel. I've been with Roger CPA Review for 6 years now, and it's been very fulfilling to see our students become CPAs and move up in their careers. A little bit about our course. We've been around since 2001, have a global student base. Our lead instructor and CEO, Roger Phillips, who is a CPA, has been teaching the exam for 20+ years now, and this is his true passion. For those who have not seen him lecture before, I recommend you check out a demo on our website. Now, you do have several options to choose from when you're ready to take a course, as you will see on this panel today. We all provide previously released AI CPA multiple choice and simulation questions to practice on, some great materials, but we're all very unique and different in our own way. So it's important to do your research and pick the learning style that fits best for you. Things you'll want to look out for are, number one, motivation, You know, the AICPA recommends you spend 300 to 400 hours studying for all 4 parts of the CPA exam. And with our course, you'll be spending 100 of those with our instructor as he goes over the concepts from scratch on the whiteboard. We are a lecture-based course in an intuitive e-learning environment. You want to make sure your instructor keeps you awake, energized, and, dare I say, entertained. Now, the CPA exam is not an IQ test by any means. It's a test of discipline and time management, so those are also key. You want materials that cut out the fat, just focus you in on exactly what you need to study. You want a course that will provide you study management tools to help you stay on track with your busy schedule. Everyone has a different life situation and plan, so a 3-month study plan may work for some, while others will need a full 12. On average, our students tend to finish all 4 parts in about 9. Diagnostic tools are important so you can gauge your understanding of each topic and have a snapshot during review time of what your strengths and weaknesses are so you don't waste your precious time. Time is very precious to us all. Flexibility is also key, as many of you will be working full-time while studying for the CPA exam and will need to squeeze in an hour or so wherever you can, even if it's during your lunch break or you may be traveling around as an auditor, for example. That is why we have a 24/7 online on-the-go system, plus we break our lectures down into bite-sized lessons, as research shows that retention rates tend to fall off after about an hour per topic. So review courses are key to your success, whoever you choose, as there will be topics on the exam that you never learned on the university level, no matter how great your campuses are. For example, 20% of the FAR section is government nonprofit, which many of you may not have had exposure to. So just make sure you are studying out of the most updated materials, that your review course does keep everything updated, and definitely do your research. So thanks so much for having me on this panel.
Thanks, Mitra. How about John Lord from Becker?
Hi, thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Mitra, and thank you to College Fog and Cal CPA for inviting us on this panel. Let me talk a little bit about my background. I am the regional lead faculty for Becker in the state of California. I have direct teaching responsibility in our classrooms throughout the state. I also teach at Golden Gate University in San Francisco, where I teach their governmental accounting and their auditing course. Why governmental accounting? Why auditing? I am an auditor with the federal government, an agency called the Government Accountability Office. GAO is the auditing investigative arm of Congress, and I've been there for about 26 years, and as I mentioned, teaching for Becker for nearly 20 years. Becker is a worldwide organization. We have classrooms across the country and around the world, including locations as far away as the Middle East and Asia. Becker starts with a top editorial staff that develop all of our textbooks, all of our study materials. We then combine that with a top software development staff, which leads to a fully integrated course software. What that means that if you're working one of over the 6,000 multiple choice questions that we include in our program, and you're looking and you're saying, well, gee, I'm not too sure what the underlying concepts are for this particular question, you could literally click a show text icon that will take you back to the particular textbook section that covered that material. We also have expert instruction, the next very important step in preparing you for the CPA exam. For our online and self-study course, that would include our national instructors, Tim Garrity and Peter Olinto, that you would be viewing their lectures online. But we also have, as you might have surmised by the fact that I teach in the California area, live instruction in which we use an expert-driven approach. For example, Mitra mentioned the governmental section to the exam. So I would be your instructor for the governmental section with my background of governmental auditing and auditing. When you deal with, say, the law section, we would have a CPA attorney in class there. We have a success rate with our instructors, or customer satisfaction rate, if you will, of 4.5 on a scale of 5. So you get a good editorial staff, you get good software development, expert instruction, all leading to our success factors for our students on the exam. which include the top verified pass rates in the industry. And something that we're particularly proud of as an indicator of the success of our students on the exam is something called the Watt-Sells Award. Watt-Sells Award is an award that is given by the AICPA to the top scorers in the country each year. Passing score on the CPA exam is 75. If a candidate receives a 90 or better on all 4 parts, they receive this Watt-Sells Award from the AICPA. Since this award has been given out since 2005, 90% of the winners have been Becker students. And last year, of the 39 that won the award, 37 were Becker students. So we're pretty proud of the fact that our over 6,000 multiple choice questions, our 260 task-based simulations, the exam has now task-based simulations, have led to this success rate for our Becker students. So that's just a little bit of background of some of Becker's successes.
John, thank you so much for being a part of this. We really appreciate it. And finally, Mike Duffy from CPA Excel. Go ahead, Mike.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for having us on board today to participate and hopefully help out all the students that are joining us. Give a very brief background on myself. After spending a number of years at Price Waterhouse in Chicago, I joined a company called Hardcore Brace and developed a CPA review course, ultimately known as Convisor Duffy CPA Review. That was acquired by Becker back in 1999, which I spent 5 years with Becker, and then left to develop a group known as CPA Excel. The primary driver for me is technology, and the company was extremely proficient at technology-driven solutions. So that is one of the driving factors behind my choice to work with them. I've spent about 25 years in this business and had the pleasure of helping many, many students get through the CPA exam, which is what all the panelists on the phone here are, that's our driving, our motivating factor. As far as CPA Excel, as I said, I'm technology driven. One of the approaches that I've always been in favor is the combination of online, offline access, working on a PC, working on a Mac, working on a smartphone, a smart tablet, and not only doing those types of tools, but having those have the capability of providing synchronized learning, so when you're working on one device, it synchronizes up with all of the others. Once again, it's a critical thing that you're as efficient and having the most up-to-date content possible, and that's what our platform is driven to do. As far as presenters, I think all of the folks on the phone here, we provide top faculty to present material to you. With CPA Excel, it's primarily UT Austin, Northern Illinois University faculty. These are subject matter experts, and as you know, they're quite keen on passing students through their universities, so we have a great collection of faculty that present to you. As far as checking out courses, I really do believe that that's important that you do that, because as some of the other panelists suggested, everybody has perhaps a slightly different mode of what they find to be successful in their preparation. So to that end, if students would like, they have the opportunity on cpaexcel.com, our website, to simply jump in there and sign up for a couple of weeks of free access to actually check out the program and see what that will provide you as far as exam prep tools. So with that said, I think it's important, we're all here to make sure that you're all successful on the CPA exam. We want to get that out of the way first and foremost, and I look forward to answering any questions and helping you along that path.
Thanks, Mike, and thanks to everybody on this awesome panel. So our goal clearly is to inform and educate the students, the accounting students on this call. And to that end, we're going to ask some questions, or I'm going to ask some questions that I think are topical, but I look to the students and the recent grads on the call to put good questions out there as well, which I'll be happy to ask. So with that said, let's kick things off. And Mike, I'll ask you the first question. A lot of times we hear why students should be taking the CPA exam or should be thinking about taking the CPA exam, as soon as possible. Can you talk about the top reasons to why they should think about taking the CPA exam soon?
Oh, absolutely. I like to look at this similar to if you sit for and go to law school. Absolutely you sit for the bar exam. Same with accounting students. If you're majoring in accounting and going through this process, absolutely you want to sit for the CPA exam. Now, a couple of reasons why, very simply. Number one, financially, over our work careers, literally it adds up to millions of dollars in additional compensation versus non-certified. I think the other critical element is instant credibility. Now, I myself, having worked at Price Waterhouse and then as a corporate controller for a couple of years, always judged anybody coming into the company that I was going to hire, and I wanted to see if they had passed the CPA exam. And I'm going to make a very clear point about that, and that is when you work in public accounting, it's just part of the process. You have to be a CPA, ultimately, to become either a senior or a manager, and certainly to ultimately be able to sign audit opinions. The real critical element in that some students don't realize this is that they say, well, I'm not going to go into public accounting necessarily. And in those situations, I say it's more important than ever that you pass the CPA exam, because that is one of the only distinguishing factors that a future employer will be able to judge you on, and I, in that position, likewise judged you. So it's really critical that you pass it. Now, one other comment, people think that, well, if I'm not licensed as a CPA to practice, well, then passing the CPA exam isn't relevant to me. It is relevant. Just the mere fact that you're able to put on your resume that you did pass the CPA exam is kind of that critical benchmark that your future employers, both corporate and government, can judge you on. So I say it's more relevant to you as a person that may not go into public practice just to pass the CPA exam. It also serves you very uniquely in the event that you decide to get into other ventures other than accounting. Several of my friends have gone on and launched other types of businesses, and I think when they go for business loans and the development of that company and the business plan, the fact that they have passed the CPA exam gives credibility to lenders and other investors as well. So I think those are my key points as to why you should take the CPA exam as soon as possible.
Mike, thanks. And anybody else have any thoughts on the or anything they'd like to add regarding the why you should take it sooner rather than later?
Jeff, this is Phil Yeager. One area students should start thinking about if they don't want to go into public accounting or industry is to possibly go into college teaching today. There's a shortage now with the baby boomers retiring. There's a shortage of college teachers. And this is a very good market. Some people like to stand up and speak. And I have found that, in order to teach college today, yes, I have a PhD in accounting, but also you really should have a CPA if you're going to teach college teaching. So, that's one route you might want to look at, all right? So having a PhD and a CPA, and by the way, college teaching is not a bad profession. And I would recommend another reason to take CPA. Consider going into college teaching. If you don't want to go into public or industry, there's another alternative choice as far as a vocation for you.
Yes, this is John. Something else that I would add as well, leveraging off of what Mike had said. In the state of California, you can obtain your CPA even if you don't plan to work for a CPA firm. We'll talk more about the experience requirements a little bit later, but if you were saying, well, I'm going to be a tax accountant or I'm going to work in the corporate accounting department of a major corporation, so I don't need to take the CPA exam, that experience would qualify you to obtain your CPA in the state of California, although it would be a non-attest license, meaning you couldn't sign off on financial statements. You could still hold yourself out as a CPA, and as Mike mentioned, that is a huge thing to put on your resume.
And just to dovetail off of what the rest of the panelists said, there really is a prestige factor about becoming licensed. It's a high designation. You should feel very confident when you do become a CPA. Salary and benefits, of course, follow, but it'll just open so many doors in the future, even if you just want to open up your own practice one day. So it's a great designation to have.
Mitra, that's a great point. Clearly, there's a lot of evidence why you should not delay this decision. Let's talk about taking the exam itself. And Mitra, I'll ask you this. what are the top reasons for success, and also what are the top reasons that people fail the exam?
Good question. You know, we partner with a number of firms, and we've received a lot of feedback from them. So I will say the number one point I hear from them regarding why some of their staff are failing versus the others who are passing with flying colors is because of lack of motivation and time management. It is so key. Many people underestimate how much time it's going to take to pass all 4 parts of the CPA exam. They don't take busy season into consideration or their personal life. They may start off really strong but then lose track over time. That's why it's important to have an instructor who will guide you along the way, letting you know exactly what will be on the exam, what type of homework problems to do, and how much time to spend per section, holding your hand the whole way through. Now, the AICPA doesn't tell you what section to start off with first. It's totally up to you, but keep in mind that your 18 months doesn't begin until you pass the first part. So a good strategy is to begin with the section you think will be most difficult. Many say that would be FAR. It has all the bulk of your intermediate accounting classes in there, leases, bonds, pensions, all that good stuff squeezed into one section. So many people like to start off with that one, but really you should choose the one you think you are the weakest in and go from there. That way, once you pass, that's when your 18 months starts ticking, and you've already built up your confidence tackling the hardest one. You can easily move on. So that's something that I see really helps with success rates. You just really have to hold yourself accountable. You need to stay motivated. Those are the students who do the best and pass quickly. Our lecture-based course incorporates a lot of great memory aids and mnemonics that will help the concepts stick in your mind. And I believe that's a part of why we have such high pass rates. But you have to look at the national average pass rate. That's 49%. So less than half of the population, first-time CPA exam candidate pass all 4 parts the first time around. But that's because you have the gamut. You have people who took a review course, who studied hard, stayed on track, and then you have those who just winged it and saw what they can do, and those people often fail, unfortunately.
So winging it is a bad decision, if is the key takeaway there for sure. Anybody else want to chime in on just on what you've seen it kind of helps drive success and or failure in taking the CPA exam?
Yeah, well, this is John. One thing that I would mention as well, Mitra mentioned time management in terms, I think, of studying, but time management on the exam itself is critical. For the financial exam, for example, you're only given 4 hours to work through a total of 90 multiple choice questions and 7 task-based simulations. That's a lot of effort to squeeze into those 4 hours. So something that we talk a lot about is making sure that you're allocating your time appropriately to those task-based simulations. The AICPA uses a multi-stage testing format, meaning that your first multiple choice testlet of 30 questions is going to be more difficult than your last 30 multiple choice questions. And so it's important to allocate more time to the later multiple choice questions than the first multiple choice questions. Also, when you get to the task-based simulation, it's important to allocate your time evenly through those, because there is one test-based simulation that is a pre-test question that isn't graded by the examiners. So you don't want to allocate too much time to, say, the first one, not get to the last one, and maybe that first one wasn't graded. And what can harm students a lot of time, candidates a lot of time, is that they won't get, say, to that last one, and that last one's graded, maybe the first one isn't. And so they get 2 zeros in that situation on 2 of those task-based simulations, and that can be a disaster come exam day. So time management on the exam itself is a very critical factor.
Hey, John, I'd like to, if I could, dovetail into something you did mention. Actually, 2 comments, if I could. One, Dimitra's point is it's kind of an interesting layout, the exam itself. So, yes, I agree that you should take one of the most difficult sections, which, quite frankly, financial is a pretty big challenge for everybody. But one of the things I hear frequently is students will rush off and try to take BEC first. But what I want to caution you on is that what tends to happen in the BEC section is it's not a task-based simulation, so to speak. It's actually essays, and frequently the essay questions come from financial accounting and auditing topics. So one of the items I try to provide as guidance is suggesting that students, defer the BEC section, which also has a high pass rate, to last, so that you've at least gotten through the core content in financial and auditing in the event an essay pops up, so that it doesn't kind of befuddle you when you're reviewing a topic and you say, well, I haven't really studied that yet. So that's just one piece of guidance. The other item that you just mentioned, John, which is correct, the pre-test questions, even in the multiple choice component, if you're looking at those, you can have anywhere from 12 to 15 of the questions on the multiple choice side that are pre-test as well. So the guidance there is when you see a question that hasn't been covered by one of the professional review courses that you choose, I would tend to think that those are the types of questions that might be pre-test, because all of us spend a great deal of time on doing our best to analyze the exam through feedback from our students. And when a question pops up like that, you have to have some knowledge, like John was saying, a strange question pops up on your task-based simulation. Well, there's a good chance that maybe that is the pre-test question. So don't spend an inordinate amount of time on a question that you're very unfamiliar with and just seems very strange. So just a little guidance there as well.
This is Phil Yeager. I just want to, I don't mean to be negative, but, not everyone passes the exam. All right? Everyone thinks they're going to walk in there and they're going to pass. Well, obviously, when we teach, we want everyone to pass. But what happens if you don't pass? All right? Well, this is what I tell people. There are two types of people who take this exam. There's raving geniuses that would pass no matter what course they took. But that's not the majority of the population. The majority of the population are the people who are determined. And if you have the determination to continue on, understanding that, yes, at times your ego is going to be tarnished, right? If you don't pass, just get right back in there and start taking that exam again, all right? As long as you don't give up, you will eventually pass this exam. It's a very passable exam, but I have to tell you, since they converted from the paper and pencil exam to the computer-based exam, the questions have gone and become more in-depth than when I took the exam and it was paper and pencil. So I don't want you to think, just know the surface material. That's not going to work. You have to have the in-depth knowledge now to pass this exam.
Great stuff. Thank you so much. Well, let's keep talking about the exam and tips in general, because a couple pieces of advice really surfaced, and I'd like to stay on this topic. What are your favorite study tips or sort of key pieces of advice that you give out? And John, why don't you take this one first?
Sure. Thanks. Yes, I think one of the most important things to do right at the beginning is to determine when you are going to take your various parts of your exam. So what I talk to students who come into our classroom at the very beginning is to literally look to the date that you're going to finish your study of a particular section and go ahead and choose and schedule your testing date. That helps to keep you on track as you're going through the material so that you are working towards the goal of taking the exam on whatever date you've chosen for that. Becker uses technology to allow you to have a study planner that is part of our software, so that you can literally use our software to help you choose those dates you're going to take those exams, and then you study to those dates. It is typically, it takes a student about 8 to 10 hours per chapter to go through all the material, thus leading up to that 300 hours that Mitra was talking about. And so it's important then to put together a weekly schedule as to how you'll go through that. We typically like to see students put in a fair amount of time during the weekend and then break up study sessions during the week, particularly for those students that are working, to get through all the materials. I am a huge fan of flashcards, and so Becker has as a product both hard copy flashcards, but we also have them available on iPad and iPhone as well. So the course is fully portable, and I often tell students, if you're going to be sitting on the train or something, bring your flashcards with you, utilize your iPhone to use every bit of time available to you to work towards that testing date. But very important to select the testing date, schedule that with the state, and then do your best to stick to that to keep yourself on your goal. Most of our candidates work their way through that in about 6 to 9 months. Plenty of time to complete your exams within the 18-month time frame that the state gives you.
I'd like to comment on that. I tell the people, first of all, don't study in your apartment, don't study at home, all right? You don't want to have a lot of distractions around. When I was studying for the exam, I went to a library. Now, I was at, right near University of Maryland. So I used to go to the University of Maryland Library, find a quiet place, and that's the way I would study. Now, John said, take the focus notes or whatever you call them, and, look at them on a train. Well, if you live in New York, and I'm from New York originally, all right, if you ever took the subway or the Long Island Railroad in, if you ever got a seat, you were lucky. And most of the time, I was standing up. I think, Mike, you're from New York, aren't you?
Chicago, but the same
Chicago,
thing.
okay. All right. Well, I don't know what the trains are like there, but I'll tell you.
They're like New York.
When I used to commute in, all right, because I worked in New York City, right? When I used to commute in from New Jersey, where I lived, into Manhattan, all right, if I got a seat on a bus or a train, all right, I was so excited about that, I didn't even think about studying for the CPA exam. So what we have is this. If you have to stand up on a train, if you have to stand up on a bus, we have an audio course, and it's really good, all right? Put the audio on, listen to it. In fact, listen to it if you're driving in your car. But if you're driving in your car and you listen to it, please don't have a car accident, all right? I don't want to be responsible. We'll have you sign a waiver on that just in case. But I was just kidding, all right? Now, but seriously, we have audio. Listen to it whenever you can, all right? The whole thing is to be constantly involved with this exam. During the period you're studying, you should only think CPA exam. And the way you can do that, one of the ways, besides the other products we have, is listen to these audio tapes, all right? They're really good. People like them. And I've even had people say they passed by putting the audio on right as they go to sleep, all right? Someone told me they could learn from while they were sleeping. I've heard of those theories. I don't know if I believe in them. But all I'm saying is, all right, there are other ways. And do check out all the products. Not every course has the same exact products, even though they may lead you to that idea. Everyone is different.
Just to add to what Phil's saying, I think the main point is, you really need to know when you work best. Some people are early morning people. Some people are late night people. I like to study at, midnight in my pajamas. Whatever is best for you, you should know by now how you work. Some people actually need background noise, and it may be okay to work at home with the, TV on. Someone like me, I like it completely quiet. I, too, like to go to the library, for example, and study. So just know when you work best and fit yourself in that environment. Flexibility is key. As John mentioned and Phil, there's different products that we all offer. In our course, you get online textbooks side by side with your lectures, which is great if you are traveling around and you don't want to lug around a set of books. But we also offer you the physical textbook. So if you want, if you're a little more old school, like to bring them around, highlight, write notes in them, you have that option as well. If you are studying on a train, like the others mentioned, you can pull up our lectures on your iPad or your phone. We also offer offline lectures through a flash drive. So, it's all about flexibility. As John mentioned, study planners, we have that as well. They're fully customizable. You can input your appointments and dates, move things around, and really get a good idea of what your months to come will be like. That's very important. Take time to make a weekly schedule. I often say do the most important things first, which is how our course is really structured. We start with the most robust topics first, the ones that are very detailed. while you're still fresh, and then we go from there. Again, we did a lot of research on retention rates, which are very important. And then finally, just limit distractions. You know, Facebook, email, phones, all of that should be out of the way. This is a huge exam, and you need to really stay focused.
Yeah, there's really not much more to add. I think every professional course of this level all have the integrated tools, such as the integrated exam planners that provide you with the detailed schedule and keep track of your metrics. And I think the one thing that I learned over the years is that nobody, and I've studied this at university after university, has ever really had a time management class, and this is really not the time for you to try to come up with how that should be approached. I think you have to take advantage of the tools that are in the programs. Similarly, we have the exam planner functionality, and it gives you a detailed schedule, the hours, estimates, based on the past 5,000 students that have passed the exam going through the course. And that gives you a really solid benchmark and lets you know this is the time you're going to need to put in, and that's called modeling. If you do what those before you have done and have been successful, likewise you will be. So I think all of us really drive home that approach of a customized tool set and planners to keep track of what you're doing and the days and what your assignments are, and that really is ultimately how you're going to be successful on the exam. So set up a plan and follow the plan. It's that simple.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for the answers, everybody. Let's talk about timing. Phil, when should a college student, in what year, when should they start preparing for the exam?
Well, Jeff, the exam is an academic exam. So normally you would say, well, if it's an academic exam, start studying, start taking it as soon as you're eligible to take the exam. And a lot of these states sometimes will allow you to take the exam, all right, with the bachelor's degree, but you have to eventually get to 150 hours, all right? But then you have this situation. People will say, well, they'll call me up and say, I've been out of school for 10 years, I don't remember a thing, all right? Well, first of all, a lot of people who are out of school longer are more motivated, all right, because they are older, and it's maturity. I'm not saying because you're younger, you're immature, but the maturity can help you. But this is another situation, all right? You can really take the exam right out of school, but please remember this, and I think Mike might have mentioned this, all right, or Mitra. The exam is now testing areas that unfortunately the universities do not cover. So, all right, whether you had it, you take the exam right out of school or 7 or 10 years later makes no difference. You're going to have to learn areas that were never given to you. For example, governmental accounting. That was said by one of the members of the panel. It is true, the AICPA knows that most schools don't give a full course in governmental and nonprofit, and that is worth about 30%. And I'm going to tell you this, if you don't do well on that part, you probably will end up with a 73 or 74. The other one that a lot of people do not have at school is corporation and partnership taxation. And I'm talking about all types of basis situations. Now, once again, they know that, the AICPA, so what do? They test heavily on those areas. That makes no sense. Why test on areas that you've never had at school? Well, you have to ask the AICPA what their idea or thought about is on that. But all I'm saying is, the course you're going to take, all right, should teach you the areas you have not had in school, all right? And that would probably be governmental, corporation taxes, partnership taxation, estate trust taxation, all right? So once again, yes, take the exam as soon as you get out of school, all right? A lot of it is fresh in your mind, but you're still going to have to learn a lot of topics that were not covered at your university.
Phil,
what I would add to that as well, I'm sorry. What I would add as well, in the state of California, it's currently taking the State Board of Accountancy about 8 to 10 weeks to process your application when you apply to sit for the exam. That's an important piece of information to remember because the way we set up our course is we have our students work through the course material and then take their exam about 2 to 3 weeks after they have completed the course, give them time to review all the material in a final review format. So if you were going to take your exam, if you were going to graduate, say, May 17th, just to pick a date, realistically, you would not be able to take your first exam till about June, July 17th. So what we would recommend you do is then look at the Becker schedule, assume you're going to take your exam on July 17th, and then structure your study around that. Your first exam would be July 17th, and then study and schedule the remainder of your exams going out from there, following the Becker schedule. Again, going back to my earlier point, having a testing date firmly in mind and working to stick to that is an important part of the strategy.
John, I don't think, is that the case in most states where it takes them 6 to 8 weeks to accept your application? NASBA has told us that they get these things approved much faster than that.
Hey, let me answer that, Phil. If the state takes if the state is part of NASBA, the state society, those applications, I believe there's, I don't know, maybe around 40-some states that are that NASBA actually provides those services. Some of them can be as quick as 3 days, but as John pointed out, specifically here in California, it can take up to 6 or 8 weeks to get it through. So it's a little more sensitive on time out here than it is in a lot of the other states that are filtering all their registrations through NASBA.
Exactly. Actually, I have a lot of students ask me, you know, oh, should I start studying while I'm still in school a little before graduation? And because California is so unique, going through the state board, and it does take at least 6 to 8 weeks to get your first authorization to test, to even be able to sit for the CPA exam, you want to make sure you don't study too early either. So I agree with John, you know, you start studying the second you graduate, all the concepts are fresh in your mind, you study, and the second you get that ATT, authorization to test, you can exam your first, or you can schedule your first exam date. And just make sure you're always studying out of up-to-date materials. Again, for example, the audit section just came out with the Clarity Project, all new standards, all new gaps. So we've updated our lectures, of course, provide that for free to our students. So just make sure, again, you're studying out of most up-to-date information.
Yeah, thanks everybody. And just as an aside, before I move on to the next question, I had a comment from Cal CPA who said that it's actually 4 to 6 weeks, where and not the 6 to 8 weeks. So we have a lot of Q&A. In fact, we have a ton of Q&A. I'm not surprised, but I did want to ask Mike, and you know, if you can move quickly on this, but definitely address it. Is where does the role of employers play in prepping for the CPA exam?
Okay, this will be a short answer. A lot of employers will reimburse the students for their programs. There are a number of employers who will not reimburse students for programs, but I would encourage you, you know, some that don't reimburse will set up payroll deduction plans, et cetera, so it makes it a little easier on you to get ready to sit. But I would encourage all the students, when you're interviewing and you're being extended offers, to make sure that you request of them that employee benefit. So there's a lot of different programs used by a lot of different firms and companies. So just make sure you ask.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks.
Most of the top 100 courses will either reimburse or pay for the course directly. By that meaning direct bill. For example, with Price Waterhouse, if you were to work with that firm or any of the big 4 firms or the top 100 firms, they would pay for Becker directly, meaning that we bill them directly and they pay Becker, so there's no out-of-pocket cost for the candidate at all. That's something that's an important thing when you're looking at employers, frankly, to understand what sort of support they provide. Some firms will also provide some time to study as well. Of course, it really looks at the needs of the firm, but often they want to help folks get through the exam sooner rather than later, and there could be that opportunity as well.
A lot of us, and I don't want people to think that only one course has direct billing. I'm sure you'll find that of the panelists here, they can tell you that most of the firms also have a direct billing agreement with them. So that's not unique to just one CPA review course. And the other thing is we now have a subscription plan, which if you go to our website, you can look at it, And basically, we basically allow you to take the course with a minimal amount, right? So if you don't get reimbursed, if you don't have a direct billing type thing, and you're paying out of your own pocket, we have a new subscription plan where you don't have to pay that much, all right? You'll get the course, and you can start studying.
Yes, thanks, Phil, for mentioning that, because we all do have direct bill agreements with different firms and partnerships and deals. So there's always something out there for you. And if you're not joining a firm right away, we offer student discounts or through state society. So definitely do your research and find out. The nice thing with many of the bigger firms is they will offer a bonus if you pass within your first year. So great motivation to get everything out of the way, and you'll get some money on the side, and it's really a win-win for the firm and yourself.
Let's move on to the next question. And John, I'm going to ask, I want to get to some Q&A, but I think this is important to talk about licensing issues, especially in California where a lot of our students are based. And some of this has already been addressed, but John, what can you tell us about licensing?
Sure. In the state of California, currently, to sit for the exam, a candidate needs their bachelor's degree with 120 semester hours of education, of which 24 will be constituted of accounting, 24 business. That is the requirement to sit for the exam, and that requirement is not going to change going into 2014. I think it's important that folks on the line understand that, because I think that gets confused quite a bit, that the requirements to sit for the exam are going to change. Those are not going to change. 120 with your bachelor's degree, 24 accounting, 24 business. What will change is when a candidate goes for their experience starting January 1st, 2014, they will need just 1 year of experience, but they will need additional education, 20 units of accounting and 10 of ethics. Those 20 units of accounting, only 6 have to be actual accounting designation classes. Up to 14 units can come from areas for business, for example, 14 units of business, but up to 9 units can come from very broad areas, including foreign language courses, industry-based courses, et cetera, that will allow a candidate to make up their accounting units with areas that are frankly outside of discipline of accounting. The state board feeling that because the CPA industry is so broad, that a person really would be adding to their knowledge to help them with the practice of a CPA getting into some of these other areas. The 10 ethics classes are also broadly defined and can be in areas as far as business courses can count. For example, if an individual had a business law class, they could count that. Also courses dealing with various areas of discipline, such as religious studies, et cetera, although those courses need to be at an intro level. So my advice would be to go to the State Board of Accountancy's website, and they have a very helpful 2 tools, a tip sheet that lays out more detailed of what I just outlined. And then in addition, they also have a worksheet that's there that's very useful that will allow you to go in, put the courses that you're in, and see how you're tracking against both the requirements to sit, as I've mentioned, and then the licensure requirements. But most important thing, you can still sit for the exam after January 1st, 2014 with the current requirements, bachelor's degree, 120 semester hours of accounting, 120 semester hours, 24 accounting hours, and 24 business.
Excuse me, John, I have a question. Did you say to get the CPA certificate in California, all right, you just need 1 year of experience, or do you have to also include all those other things you were talking about, the ethics and all that other stuff?
Yes, to sit for the exam, you just need the 120, the 24, right. 24. To get the license, then they add an additional 30 units, 20 accounting, 10 ethics, and 1 year of experience.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, and that
so
experience.
That brings you up 150 hours.
Well, the 30 units of education bring you up to the 150 hours of education, and then the 1 year of experience is 1 year of experience.
Right.
Working under the supervision of a CPA. For an attest license, the candidate would have to have experience in auditing, doing external auditing, confirming accounts receivable, searching for unrecorded liabilities, revenue recognition. For the a test license that would have to have at least 500 hours, which is about a quarter of the year, doing those type of experiences. However, as I mentioned previously, if someone was going to work in the accounting department of a major corporation, then they could cover that 1 year, not going through those specific obvious auditing type procedures, but just by using accounting data in their day-to-day work under that 1 year supervision of the CPA. The CPA does not have to be a California CPA as long as they are a good standing CPA in whatever jurisdiction they're in, they can sign off on your work.
I also want to mention that Cal CPA has a great self-evaluation worksheet on their website. A lot of students are using this to fill out the classes they're taking and adding everything up to see, where they need to pick up extra units. So definitely check that out, as well as the tip sheet on the California Board of Accountancy website. We're very excited to announce we have a 4 academic credit program where you can study with our course and also obtain up to 6 AACSB accredited units. They're highly accredited. Should work towards any program really, as well as California licensure when you need these extra 150 units. This would be a nice way to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, study and gain some units on the side for the accounting study portion.
Thanks, guys. We have more questions that probably we'll have time to answer because of some of the awesome content we've got today. What I'd like to do is I'll fire off a question, assign it to one of you, and then we'll let you answer the question, then I'll move on to the next one. So with that said, Mitra, I'm going to ask you the first one, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know if there are scholarships or grants available for recent graduates that can be used towards taking the CPA exam?
That's a great question. We actually work with many campuses nationwide where we offer scholarships towards our course to help out, usually in the springtime and online as well. You can always apply, and many of the other review courses do the same thing. Cal CPA offers some great scholarships that will go towards your studies. There's all types of organizations out there that I recommend people join. Organization for women accountants, there's Ascend, the Pan-Asian accountants, there's NABA. There's a bunch out there. It's great to get involved, and they all offer great scholarship opportunities.
Mitra, thanks. Phil, I've got one for you. So when you talked about becoming an accounting professor, somebody asked what the requirements are to become a teacher. Do you have to become a PhD? Do you have to have a master's degree? What are the additional requirements after getting your bachelor's to become a professor?
Well, to answer that, if you want to teach in a community college, most of them will accept an MBA CPA. So they won't ask for a PhD. But if you want to teach at a university, all right, you generally have to have a PhD, right? And they want you to be AACSB terminally qualified. Now, AACSB terminally qualified means that you have to have a master's degree from an AACSB accredited university. You have to have a PhD, right? Now, the PhD could be from any place, all right? There aren't AACSB PhD programs, right? So you have to have a master's from AACSB, all right, PhD, and that can even be from University of Phoenix. They're very, very liberal right now, all right? And also the CPA does help. Now, that's for 4-year colleges, and by the way, all right, there's 2 tracks when you go to a 4-year college, all right? You can have what we call a tenure track contract where you're going to have to publish, but a lot of the schools now are offering what we call lecturers. And lecturers, they might have to teach a couple more courses, right? But once again, they have to have a PhD, etc. Right? But the lecturers don't have to publish. They just have to teach some additional courses. So, you can basically work things out with these universities because truly, they are really getting to the point of being desperate as far as getting accounting teachers.
I'd like to add one comment onto that. Some of these new faculty coming out are making $180,000 to $200,000 a year, so it's not a bad choice.
It's not a bad gig, is it?
No, not at all.
Mike, let me ask you a question. Can can you change jurisdiction, or how do you change jurisdiction after fulfilling the requirements for a particular state? Just and since we're asking about all states, what's the general process? How do you change jurisdiction?
Well, I mean, certainly there's a new thing out there, and it's probably a little long to cover all of this right now, but it's called mobility. And boy, I might be off here, but it's somewhere around 45 states are now participating in the mobility program, which is if you are licensed to practice in one state, but then you're working on a client in a different state, they automatically transfer and allow you to practice in that state without going in for a separate application. But if you are going to switch just jurisdictions, not because of a firm, you're actually moving or going to another company, obviously you have to contact that state board and put in your application to have that information transferred over. And there's one little caveat there, which is some states require that if you are coming from a given state that has lesser requirements to sit for the exam than another, such as someone has 150-hour minimum before you can sit, there may be a little more of a process involved to get your license or whatnot transferred to another state. So unfortunately, there's a lot of variance there, and you're going to have to contact the state that you're intending to switch to.
Yeah.
Mike, the other thing I would add to that, this is John, is to take a look at a website. It's called cpamobility.org. And it's very useful. It's a site that's put together by the AICPA and the National Association of State Boards of Accountancy. It would allow you to go ahead and use a drop-down menu to put the state that you are going to be coming from, the state that you are going to be going to, and provide some useful instruction as to what steps you would need to take to be able to sit in that particular state. The state of California, some of those changes for 2014 that we talked about, is often a state where you can come from in practice in many of the other states. Also, out-of-state CPAs have the opportunity to practice in California as well. But a good site is at cpamobility.org to help to get you started on that research.
Hey, John, and I'm going to stick with you. Just one last question. We have a lot of questions, and if it's okay with everybody on the call, we'll go over just a couple of minutes because we're here at the top of the hour. But John, May is asking about the FAR portion of the exam, and just want to see if you'd comment about studying and any tips on passing the FAR part.
Yeah, a couple of key things to keep in mind for the financial. It is the broadest part of the exam. Our financial textbook has 10 chapters to give you a sense as to how broad the subject matter is. It ranges from your intermediate accounting, but also, as was mentioned, governmental accounting. And something that we didn't get into before is that international financial reporting standards were added to the FAR exam in 2011. About 20% of the financial exam is constituted of those international financial reporting standards. What most of our candidates are finding is that this is a good time to add IFRS to your body of knowledge. Most countries use some form of IFRS, and even in the U.S., the Financial Accounting Standards Board and the International Accounting Standards Board are working together to convert U.S. GAAP to IFRS, meaning that over the next few years there'll be changes so that U.S. GAAP is more in line with IFRS. What we do is we use your understanding of U.S. GAAP as the foundation to then help you to understand what some of the key differences are between U.S. GAAP and IFRS. Our students are finding not only that to be an interesting discussion, but then very helpful to help them cover those 20% of the points on the financial exam. One other thing I'll add is that I think making sure that you are comfortable with journal entries is a key success factor on the exam. And we teach from the standpoint of those journal entries. We assume that you understand the difference between a debit and a credit, but after that, we pretty much assume that much of what you learn is just below the surface, and we're going to help you to bring that up to the top to help you be successful in the exam.
That's good stuff. Thanks, John. You know, there's been a ton of information for our audience today, for the students, and a couple of things. I'm going off the script here, but I wonder if it'd be okay for the panelists if in our follow-up email we provided with the attendees your email addresses in case they had any further questions. I had a few questions that were product specific, and I want to make sure they reach you. Hopefully that's okay, because we'll provide that, and also links to Jaeger and Roger, Becker, and CPA Excel, so that you can learn more about each one of these companies and how they help you. And everybody has a lot of great advice on their sites.
Hey, Jeff,
yeah,
they're welcome to email me, but you know, also you are welcome to give them my phone number, because I like to talk to people on the phone, because we really stress the personal service. And I'm from the old school where it's actually easier to communicate with someone on the phone. So if people don't mind calling, I'd be happy to talk to them if they have any questions.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you.
I'm not saying don't email me, okay? You can email me, but if you want, give me your phone number. I'll call you, or you can call me.
Same here.
Sounds like
Either of
fun.
those are
Find
fine.
calls or emails, whatever works best. We'd be happy to help you out.
You got it. You got it. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it. I say that because there were a handful of questions that we weren't able to get to, and I apologize for that. The last thing we'll send out also in this follow-up is just more information about licensing and requirements. I know that's a hot topic, and we got a lot of questions on that as well. So that being said, kind of a quick wrap-up here. Mike and John, Mitra, Phil, first of all, thank you for your time, for your expertise in teaching about this exam. If I could show you a list of the questions that we have that we're not getting to, I actually will give you that list because it's great information. We appreciate everybody jumping on the call.
Pleasure.
Thank you guys very, very much. And thank you to all the attendees who are here as well. A couple of things. We will send out a recording of this to everybody who registered and everybody who attended. It'll also have the links to all of the 4 companies and contact information. As far as the rest of the week goes, we have webinars every day the rest of this week that are designed to educate everybody for accounting careers, including how to write a resume tomorrow. All right, so you definitely want to check that out. Thursday, Armanino, Kevin Turco from that firm will be talking about steering your career, an important topic. And then Friday, Cal CPA will be on talking about how to gain the maximum benefits of a Cal CPA membership. So that's it. Next
Jeff,
yes,
Jeff,
go ahead.
I'm sure my my fellow CPA group providers would have no problem answering these additional questions or doing this again. I think it's very helpful for the students. You know, we're not sitting here promoting our courses, all right? We're basically giving them information. And I'm speaking for myself, and I'm sure I'm speaking for the other of my colleagues, all right? We're happy to do this at some future time if you would like to do it.
Well, let's do it. I think it's phenomenal, and I think it benefits the students, and we would love to put this back together on. Again, Phil, thank you.
You're welcome.
So calcpa.meetthefirmsweek.com, you can register for those webinars as well. So I'm going to wrap it up. I just want to say thanks to everybody. I hope it's a fantastic week. We're having a blast. I'm glad you're here. And thanks one last time to all of our wonderful panelists. We really appreciate it. You guys did a great, great job today. So for that, we'll sign off. Everybody have a great day. Bye now.
Thanks. Bye.
Take care.
Thank you.